Welcome back to the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. We have been on a hiatus, and we are finally back with one of my favorite movies, and with a movie that you may or may not be familiar with at all. Tonight, it is the Return of Captain Invincible, and joining me as always is my sidekick, Austin the Day Ghost.
I think this is another example of movies we've done the sequel of before we've done the original on this new rewind.
And also joining us tonight, guest starring, is my son Jayson, and this is only Jason's second rewind commentary. Yes, Austin. I don't know if you got the memo, because I know you've only seen this a couple of times, but there's not a first one.
Oh, I thought this was a sequel to Puma Man. Okay, I'm not Puma Man, Condor Man.
Condor. I was gonna say that's a better joke.
Yeah, no, I know. The wrong title came to my head.
Well, that makes this one of those rare birds where the sequel is way better than the original.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I don't hate Condor Man or anything, but this is on another level for a superhero parody comedy film.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Which that also kind of is, and is around the same time, and is another foreign film, and that's also an Australian movie.
Oh, I didn't realize that was also Australian. I knew it was a foreign film, but I didn't know where it was from.
And it's possible it was made for the same reason this was. Because this movie happens, like a lot of movies did then, made in Australia, because of a giant tax break that you got through a program that allowed for movies to be made in Australia, again, for a big tax break, as long as they were like totally quote unquote Australian. Like there were a bunch of criteria that you had to that you had to fall into, and like a lot of the cast had to be Australian. I think crew. Yeah, the crew, the locations. There had to be a big kind of like Australian bent to the movie, I think. Which is why I could be wrong on that aspect. It might be that you could just like match, say, Sydney for an American city, but I don't think so. I think it had to actually be like Australia had to feature in the movie, like it does here.
Yeah, that one I'm not entirely sure. Like I haven't looked too far into the rules, but that it's funny because you said that's how we get this and Condor Man, and that's
Probably.
Also the reason why Justice League Mortal fails. Is they lose that benefit. Australia's like, wait a minute, this isn't Australian enough to get our tax break.
Wow, interesting. And that's probably at a different program at that point, because the specific program this used was done by the 80s or 90s, I think. Mm-hmm. I don't know a ton about this. I'm getting most of this information from the director's commentary on the beautiful new release from just a couple of years ago from Severin. This is one of my absolute favorite Blu-ray releases now. It's 3 discs. It's got the director's cut. It's got the much inferior and terrible, and Jayson and I have both seen it now. We'll talk about it. American theatrical cut, and it also has a 3rd disc that's the soundtrack. that's cool that's on here, but it is not included from the masters or anything. It sounds like it's just recorded straight off the disc. So that's unfortunate. That's a letdown, but it's neat. It's on here.
Mm-hmm. Is that just like a CD, or is it?
It's
like
a CD.
Okay. I was gonna say, it'd be weird if they just put that on like a Blu-ray disc.
So apologies for having to do this. This is really unprofessional, but everybody bear with me for just a second because this is going to distract me the whole show. My camera on OBS right now is glitching out every, like, I don't know, 45 seconds or so. It's just like flashing weird, and I'm gonna try to just import the camera back in and see if that fixes it because it's acting really strange. So yeah, you guys might not see us here for a minute.
Oh no, you're stuck looking at me instead. For shame.
So enjoy that. What is happening here? Fine. No, not the background. I'm having all kinds of problems now.
You're turning into, there's a chase level in the Neversoft Spider-Man where you're chasing Venom and you like crash into a building, and it's like a cutscene where it spins around the building and you can just hear them being like, you know, like they'll break into like, the office and they're like, oh, like, excuse me, like, out of the way.
Catch a Logan jump scare.
This is just already an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is my second, I'm pretty sure second Superhero Rewind commentary, because this is one of my favorite superhero movies. Probably top 3 superhero movies of all time, and one of my favorite movies and one of my favorite comedies. And so I was like, Dad, I gotta be here real badly.
Well, especially because we've done your top 2 superhero films now on Rewind, which is this and Moonwalker.
No.
Yeah.
Moonwalker is not on my top. Moonwalker.
Yeah.
It's still doing it. I don't know why it's glitching like that. Well, we should be all right. It's just occasionally it flashes. I don't know if you guys can see that on your end, but it's acting.
You can.
Great. Well, it's acting weird. I don't know what's happening. I've got a new computer. We're using new equipment, but we've done several streams with this, and it hasn't done that yet. So I don't know if
Maybe
I
it's the camera.
need to reinstall the camera or put in a new one or what.
Just slap the camera.
We'll figure it out.
But anyway, we'll start the commentary here in just a minute. I want to guarantee people that have not watched this movie that we will probably really oversell it. all 3 of us have a real affinity for this movie, and I think this is probably for a lot of people something of an acquired taste. It is very unconventional. It will feel very B-movie-ish if you're... one second. Like there's a lot of B-movie comparisons you can make, although it also, for an Australian movie at the time, was oddly mainstream. And we'll talk about that a little bit, because Jayson and I learned some things with the director's commentary, which I had heard before, but it had been a while. And so this comes out in 1983, and it stars Alan Arkin, and the villain is Christopher Lee, and so a couple of big enough faces, especially a lot later. Alan Arkin had a big kind of second career as an older guy. He won his first Oscar, I think, in his 70s or maybe even 80s.
Is that with Argo?
I think that was the movie, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And let me also mention that this is not a movie that is easy to stream. If you listen to us, because I know a lot of people won't even watch the movie while we're talking about it, but if you just listen to us and you get curious about seeing this, like I said, the Severin release is still available, and still, I think, for the same price it came out at originally.
Yeah, I think it's still.
But it is a thing that used to be more available on YouTube, and then they probably cracked down on it because this came out. So if you find it online, you are probably looking at the crappy American theatrical cut. So I urge you not to watch that, or at least not to watch it first. Trust me on this. You
just won't like it.
It is not the way to watch it. You probably won't appreciate it. It feels very much like cobbled together, like almost trailer for the actual movie. There's a few things in it that I wish were put back in the director's cut, but for the most part, it's more than an inferior cut, and it's also more of a different movie than even something like Daredevil to its director's cut, where there's a shocking, I've never seen this, Austin, there's a shocking number of alternate takes from in the performances.
Mm-hmm. Oh, weird.
Where it's like they just took, and most of them inferior, like most of them not the correct takes. It makes Alan Arkin look like he's really timid and unsure of what he's going to do with his performance. And it's really strange. Meanwhile, all of the Christopher Lee stuff is almost exactly the same, which suggests that he might have done all of his stuff in one take, and Alan Arkin took multiple takes.
I mean, I could see that.
And yeah, Bag, don't use Tubi. That's what I was going to say, is it is there. If you see an hour and a half cut, that's the wrong cut. You want to look for an hour and 41 minutes. So the director's cut is 11 minutes longer, but it isn't just 11 more minutes tacked on. It's a completely different cut. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. Although it's so different, Jayson, I'm wondering if maybe at some point we shouldn't come back and do one of these on that cut.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes like to do that on different cuts. Like, we'll do the Donner cut apart from the Lester cut with Superman 2, etc. We might at some point, Austin, even do the Daredevil theatrical cut, just for the heck of it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. We have plenty of other movies to do before that, so...
Yeah, exactly.
This is a movie I've talked about a lot, mostly because nobody else will, and it needs to be... I'm not saying nobody, but a lot of people don't even know about this. It's coming up a lot more now than it ever used to, especially because there's finally a really good Blu-ray release. But I'm excited to hear Austin talk about it and to get some thoughts from Jayson. I've done, I don't know, 2 or 3 different videos on this in the past, but never a commentary, so it'll be fun to chat about it while we're watching it. So everybody get it to timestamp 0, get ready to press play when I say now, if you're going to watch it with us, and if you can't find a way to watch the director's cut, and you have seen the movie, just listen to us talk. We'll make this as podcasty as we can, and really, don't watch the theatrical cut along with it. That would be very strange.
That would be even worse. Because you'll be like, hey, we haven't gotten to this scene yet.
Bag says, are you telling me out of all the films of the face of the earth, The Return of Captain Invincible has multiple cuts? Not only does it have multiple cuts, I mean, it's only got the 2, as far as I know, but not only does it also have that dreadful American cut, but I'm convinced, or at least somewhat convinced, that that's a lot of the reason that it's not more well-remembered, even as a cult classic, here. Because if the correct version had come out here, and had been rented on VHS and stuff, and the DVD later, it might have caught on faster than it has. As far as I know, the Australian version doesn't make it to DVD until like 2006.
Yeah.
To like mid-2000s. That's when I got my hands on it. And the reason I know about it in the first place, because I have an uncle that loves this movie and knew I was big into superhero movies, and I didn't know about it, and he wanted me to watch it. And it is now my wife's like favorite movie. She insists on watching this multiple times a year.
Yes. And I would say maybe it's the most one of the most quotable movies for me.
Yeah.
Specifically.
So, Jayson, that means I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Which movie are you, like, very happy that you have to watch a ton, every year? Batman 89 or The Return of Captain Invincible?
Captain Invincible. And both are very quotable as well.
We watch this with groups a lot. We have people over that haven't seen it. It's our mission in life to make sure that all of our friends have seen this movie. And
we showed it to Connor.
Jason insists on seeing it every time we turn it on. Yeah, we've done it twice this year.
Yeah, last year we did it.
Or last year rather.
Twice. We showed it to Connor Nielsen and we showed it to Chris,
who's my assistant director on the Superhero Rewind movie.
Yeah.
And they both loved it, even though Chris kept falling asleep, but he was just very tired. All right, let's do this.
This is not a boring movie.
It is not. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. And this is going to be tough. We're going to have a lot to say, Jayson. And it's not long.
Yeah,
I don't know how we're going to get it all in.
I'm just gonna quote it a lot. I feel like.
Well, it's hard not to do that with comedy sometimes, where it's like, here's this
That's
very funny movie.
Well,
all I want to do is go, here's the funny, here's a funny part,
and I'm gonna talk about all the creepy guys in this, because there's so many creepy people in this movie.
All right, here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. We've got a really great cold open right away with the News on the March.
News on the March.
Which, the first time I saw this, I thought went on too long, and I didn't appreciate all of the setup and how this is establishing, in a really creative way, all the backstory that you need for what's happening in Captain Invincible in, 79 throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like its own little short film adventure while also being, setting up everything that we're going to see, as well as doing the, horrible president thing from the 90s Captain America thing way better, and before it.
Yeah, it's crazy that that's there with the kid that is obsessed with the Captain America type superhero and then grows up to become the president and then works
Captain
with
America
him.
does that too.
All that is in the 1990 Captain America movie.
And he is one of the best presidents in a movie.
Yeah, there was a speech at one point where I was like, this is more iconic than the Independence Day speech.
Yeah, so that's Michael Pate, who, the only other thing I've seen him in, because apparently he got typecast during this period as Native Americans just constantly, and it drove him nuts. It's like that was the only roles he could get. He hated it. But he is the lead henchman for the Clock King in the 60s Batman Clock King episode, and he's really funny in that. He actually gets quite a bit of dialogue.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's kind of neat that it has that connection, because this movie it goes without saying, massively informed by 60s Batman and also by film serials, which of course 60s Batman is a parody of. This does the same thing with the kind of classic voiceover, and I think it establishes its tone really well in doing the newsreels, because that's also a throwback to movie serials, and so at the same time as it's giving us this background and exposition, it establishes so much here.
It also looks like a movie serial with obviously it's supposed to be like real footage, but it also looks like what a movie serial would do a airplane.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Like that.
And they intentionally, there's a lot of not great effects in this because it has a small budget. Some of it is intentional, and I think it's just part of the charm with it. But especially with the News on the March footage, all of the stuff that looks bad here is intentionally bad.
Yeah, exactly. It knows exactly what it's doing with that, and how it's homaging that.
Yeah, you won't believe a man can fly and you're not supposed to. That's the joke.
You will believe a man could sing, just not right away, though.
That's right.
It is a little weird that we do, find a way to merge this into a song. I do feel like with it being a musical, you maybe could have taken the announcer and, have it turn into a song as it's going.
Yeah, the more I've seen this, the more I appreciate. Well, I want to say the more I've seen this, the more review-proof it gets, Austin. But the more I've watched this, the more I kind of don't want it to be anything other than what it is. It's hard to suggest.
Yeah, I definitely feel that.
Want to change about it now? I do have a few things here and there, but I also feel like the anachronisms and the counterintuitive things. Like I guess I got turned around real hard on this by like the third or fourth viewing, where I'm just kind of a believer now. With like it breaks a lot of rules, and I love it for a lot of the rule breaking it's doing. It's such a rebellious teenager, and I love it for that. And so one of the things that's really fun to me is the first time I saw it, one of my complaints was all the songs are in different genres for no good reason, and they're too spread out, and you keep forgetting that it's a musical, and it doesn't open, like you suggested, with music, so it might be establishing its comedic tone, but it's not establishing the fact that it's a musical. And
I think that's funny.
All of the things I just explained are a lot of what I love about it now.
Yeah. I thought it was hilarious, because my first viewing of this, I was like, because you had that first song with the president, and then then it went right into the first actual song with what the world needs now, and I was like, why is he singing now? And then we got the next song, and I was like, oh, this is a musical. Like, that's what I really like the how you can like kind of figure out that it is a musical.
Well, the opening credits are indicative of the whole piece, because once you've seen it a couple times, you might think it's trying to tell you that it's a musical, with having Captain Invincible drunkenly singing New York, New York opening over the opening theme, which is not New York, New York. It's not like he's not singing along to New York, New York. He's singing along to the Captain Invincible theme, and then on first viewing, and I think everybody has this, when you get to the BS song, you go, wait a minute, it's a musical? Like you didn't realize that it was setting you up for that. That's indicative of the whole movie, where it keeps making you think it's one thing, and then it takes a weird hard turn, and then you realize it really is all of a piece. And it takes a while to really, or at least it did for me, first time out, to really trust it and get with it and understand what it's doing. But you got to adjust to it. It is kind of reinventing the wheel a little bit. But what I appreciate about a comedy that is as farcical as this is, without getting quite to like a Naked Gun kind of plays, is it is absolutely absurd and preposterous and nuts and way out there, and it also gives you a solid foundation with characterization and story, where like it really is about something, and you have an honest to god character arc, and it's like shockingly character driven, and I love the way that it anchors you in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely think it's funny the way that it is handled, and I do like how it is. There's just that part of me that does feel like there is probably a really good song we could have had in the sequence, but I do like how the movie is already.
No, I think you're absolutely right.
So this is a great transition. And the theatrical cut butchers it.
Oh, how's that?
What it does is it takes it does the news on the march, and then it does the news thing that happens after this, that's actually in the 70s in color, and then it goes into this.
It has sort of two cold opens. Like first of all, it puts a timestamp up. It says you're in 1979 in Australia. It's a lot more fun to like find that out as you go along, I think. But then it has the news interview thing where he says he flew through the air and grabbed the satellite, and then it does this, Austin, but without his singing New York, New York, and you can still see his mouth moving, but it's just this music without the New York, New York.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that. He's not even
singing, and I don't want to talk too much about the comparisons. Again, I think it might be fun at some point to actually watch that and talk about the few things that work and everything else that doesn't.
Yeah.
But what I think that cut was attempting to do was make it look as mainstream as possible and as much for general audiences as it could. It tries to downplay the comedy as much as it can get away with, and put more of an emphasis on the plot.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, it actually makes the plot slightly easier to follow. It also cuts out enough that there's other places where that's not true. Because it's also really hobbled together, and it feels like it was edited like a trailer.
So it's the original Suicide Squad, is what you're saying.
Well, and Daredevil, because there's stuff totally out of sequence in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have the comedic pacing that this does. There's a lot of jokes that fall flat just because it's edited wrong.
This does have a great theme, though.
Yeah, which
great
I
opening.
actually like a little bit less now that I've seen the American theatrical version, because they play it constantly. Like, they really butchered the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm talking too much about that. Austin...
Catch it. Yes, good work.
I think for the superhero genre, this movie is weirdly ahead of its time, because we've had lots and lots of superhero stories now, both in comics and extra media, about the washed-out superhero that finally comes back and tries to, put the old cape on again, and is dealing with like modern cynicism and how the world has changed and isn't what he wants it to be anymore, and he's questioning whether his life meant anything and if he made a difference. We've done that constantly, and that's very Kingdom Come, etc., etc.
Well, it's that thing I always say is every character has to have their old man blank.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that this is just that idea in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And before Dark Knight Returns.
That's true too. Only a couple of years before that.
Mm-hmm.
This comes out in '83 in Australia. I don't think we get it until the next year, maybe, which is the year I was born.
I don't know if we get it until 86.
Oh, you know what? Maybe it is later than that, now that you're saying that.
86 or 87.
So that means in America we might not have seen it until Dark Knight Returns came out.
They waited for that to come out, and then they were like, wait a minute. We have a movie just like that.
There's a creepy guy. The barking guy, yeah.
One of the things this movie does so well as a parody is it's not... it carves out its own space. It has very much its own unique tone. It's also not generic entirely anyway in its references, but it's not really specific and blatant and obvious either. So you look
It's
at something
less specific Austin Powers.
That's a good call. It's sort of like I like it better than Condor Man again as a parody, because that's very just generically Superman, while this, you obviously see the Superman influence, and there are some very direct references to that, particularly later when we get a song that is just "Can You Read My Mind?" And like that's obviously what we're doing, but in characterization, he's a really cool blend of several superheroes, and they're not even all from the same company. So I see Captain Invincible as Superman mostly in powers. He doesn't have all the same powers as Superman, obviously, which I also really respect, by the way, that he's got his own weird power set. And it's also more consistent than, somebody like Lester with Superman. But he's... We'll talk about white supremacy and racism and stuff a little bit later, but and you're going to give me all of your money. But Austin, I see him as Superman in powers and also in just like at least in World War II, the symbol of American patriotism.
Mm-hmm.
But
the
then,
truth, justice, and the American way thing.
But then he's also Captain America, and he's also Iron Man.
Here's another hint that, it might be a musical.
Yeah, but it also watches like it's just a quirky thing your villain does.
Yeah. And then it actually is a musical.
Could we call the little music things before it becomes a full-on musical just foreshadowing? As opposed to really getting out in front of it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really funny.
Well, this is, 4 years after Christopher Lee fought Captain America.
I think for my money, this still is the best superhero musical. It does not have a whole lot of contenders. You have...
It's better than Joker 2.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you have that now, jukebox musical. You have Dr. Horrible, which I still love.
Oh, Dr. Horrible, yeah.
And I like maybe more as a musical, but I think I like this more overall as a movie at this point.
And,
I think at one time I wouldn't have said that.
Shark Boy?
And I don't know anything about that.
That's a musical.
Oh, is it really?
I'm pretty sure.
Shark Boy? What?
Is it?
I'm pretty sure that is.
I don't think that's a musical.
I didn't think it was, but
there's
I've
like
never
a
seen
part where he sings, but I don't think it's a.
Is it not a full musical? Okay.
I don't think it is. I think there's just one scene where he sings.
But the only other thing I can think of that's a feature that's a musical, because of course we've done it in TV shows and stuff, is Superman the musical from 1975.
No, that's the best one.
You're telling me
like Hercules, but that's like on the. Like, not exactly traditional superhero, but like that is a superhero movie.
Oh, that's
I'm trying to think of like other ones, but that's.
And
like,
we made a whole argument for why Hercules counts, so that's true. That should be in the discussion.
So,
and you like the music in that more than I do. I do like it quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel like it's probably between these two.
You're telling me that Superman would destroy himself.
So, I think Alan Arkin does a really good job at.
And now we have a flamethrower
Yeah,
in a
what
car.
is that?
Well, now it's the dragon from Doctor No, which is just a car that shoots fire.
Yeah,
The dragon.
Pretty much. So, I think Alan Arkin does a really good job at this character going from this drunken man, washed up drunken guy, and then the transition from that to
meanwhile outside of the Stargate facility.
Yeah, and then
cover up all these naked women
into this like superhero character. I think he does a really good job.
Austin apparently, so Philippe Mora's commentary is fascinating because there's so much weird stuff that
I want to know what
that happened with this movie.
And
I can only imagine because I've now seen 2 of his films, and
really?
I have to imagine he is a very interesting person.
Well, and this was apparently really toned down from what he usually makes, and the way he talked about it is he doesn't really go in for making things of taste. that's the way he put it. He absolutely could have been making trauma movies.
What the heck is a gig
I mean, I think that's the saddest thing about this movie is that in anyone else's filmography, this is their best film, but it can't be when you've also made Howling 2, Steerba Werewolf, B-Word.
And Howling 2 was in the triple box set that was the only way this was released on DVD before this new Blu-ray came out, Austin. And so I own a copy of that, but I've never watched it. And it also came with the Christopher Walken movie Communion.
Which is also him.
Which I would assume he directed, because... Yeah. I never actually looked, but I would think it'd be weird to have a box set of 3 movies and 2 of them were directed by this. So I figured the point was it was movies directed by that guy.
Yeah, but it is funny when one of them is a sequel, where it's like Howling 2.
Even a political candidate.
But that's also got Christopher Lee, and he plays Stefan.
You know how somebody on the Captain Logan show...
Could they build another Hypno Ray?
You know how somebody on the Captain Logan show this week, Austin, or Jayson, excuse me, asked if there's, like, what other superhero movie I would consider doing multiple commentaries of? Besides Batman 89. This would probably be the one, actually, yeah.
I mean, no one else would be able to watch it with you, but...
My God.
It wouldn't be Iron Man 2?
No, Austin, it's not Iron Man 2. We've got a super chat. Let me hit that real quick. Senior Sticks, Captain Invincible reboot, prequel, maybe. Never. Please don't do that.
Pinpoint what?
I don't want to see anything else with it. This is one and done, folks. Especially because you'd have to recast everybody.
This kind of B movie where it's like, no one will, remember this well enough to want to do a reboot. Like, it's not big enough for that.
They're
No,
making a
it-
Captain Invincible
but it exists.
reboot, and this little kid isn't too happy about it.
Austin, it'd be us. We would be the only people that would think to remake this movie
Yeah, exactly.
or do something else in it. And suddenly we have a robot arm. So I put this in the category of what I've always called a kitchen sink movie,
Oh, sure.
where you just throw every single weird, random, bizarre object, artifact, idea, concept in a blender and see if you can make it all fit together. And it surprisingly does pretty well for what this is.
Well, that's why I love B movies, because it's like, here's 8 million ideas that we want to do, and we don't have the money to do any of them.
I love the wink he does
We're
there.
gonna do it though.
Yeah, and then there are those scenes that are surprisingly pretty decent looking, Austin, and you wonder how they pulled it off with the budget they have. Which is one of the things that I really respect this movie for. Like, there's a lot of, obvious care put into this. And it's a step above a lot of B movies in that it's got real talent, and your lead and your lead antagonist feel like they really want to be there and like they're taking it seriously. And it's also the sort of parody, farce, however you want to look at it, that absurd comedy, where the characters themselves are taking everything totally seriously.
Well, that's just something I love about, Christopher Lee, for example, is just, that's kind of just his career, like, through most of it, is he's doing movies that are below, like, his caliber as an actor, but, like, he comes in and he does it.
He's just bringing his A game every time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and
especially by this point, like, he's in not a great spot in his career by the time he's doing stuff like this.
Yeah. Well, and this movie is a cavalcade of underrated actors. I put Michael Pate right up there. He should have done a lot more. And apparently he did some I can't remember if it was just directing or if he did some writer directing stuff, but like I haven't seen anything he made, but according to Philippe, the director, he was really multi-talented and should have had a much bigger career. And sadly, it seems like the main reason he didn't is just because of his look.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. You don't have that look, and Hollywood's not going to accept you.
But for the sake of this Australian movie, where they had to use Australian actors, and mostly when they went to American actors living in Australia, even, Michael Pate was the person in the slate who most looked like Ronald Reagan.
I think he looks like a president.
I do too. And, I say everybody's playing it straight. I mean, he is absolutely a cartoon character, but the way he's playing it is very earnest. Even though it's real silly and over the top.
Like he's playing it like he's an airplane.
Why does the fax machine play Pac-Man sounds? I don't understand.
I mean, there's a lot of Pac-Man sounds in this movie.
And why doesn't it in the theatrical cut? That's the real question.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
There's maybe a place where it does. That specific spot, it's completely silent.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. They also cut out all of the women's lib stuff with her.
Yeah. And all of it.
In that, there's a lot less of a relationship between her and Captain Invincible. She feels a lot more like a token sidekick character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Austin, how do you feel about, and I mean, I want to talk about this on a real honest-to-God story level, because I think you really can talk about it that way. How do you feel about the fact that they don't culminate a full-on romance? Because it feels like it might go there, and then it just never really coalesces into that.
I think it works for this movie. Like, it's
this guy too. This is a creepy guy.
American personnel, damn it! What,
Come
sorry,
on,
Austin.
see? No, what was I going to say with that? No, I mean, it could have been a romance, but I think it's probably better for not having to do that. Like, we don't have to stop
You're
and
his
do
friend.
romance drama or anything like that. Can kind of keep its pace going a little bit more.
Yeah, it's not real typical of the time. Like usually she would just be the straight up Lois Lane, and they'd have a big kiss at the end, and he'd get the girl. Within again just the context of this, as silly as it is, it is maybe more logical that they don't full on go there. Like, you can tell he's attracted to her and she likes him, and that could happen. And maybe you can imagine after this they would get together, but you've got relatively high enough stakes and enough of a ticking clock that they don't really have time for a romance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It would feel really forced if just all of a sudden they were doing that. Even with his, like, flying her around and like making fun of Superman and being sort of romantic there. I think he's got to find himself in his romanticism about America and his patriotism again before it makes sense for him to romance a woman. I guess is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. The only romance I want added into this film is just Christopher Lee and his little henchman, Lizard Man.
Okay, I forgot that I wanted to mention this. Can we talk about the remake of this movie, which is Hancock?
Yeah, Austin and I did Hancock recently, and I said the same thing.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to mention the fact that he's just eating cold beans like Watchmen.
Yeah, look, they're fine like this.
It's fine like this.
This set is really cool.
Yeah, it is.
I think this is just an Australian building. That's why it's all blown apart.
So I think this is, however you feel about just country as a genre, I think this is a legitimately really well-written song.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a good choice. Like, it's got like soul to it, and he's got like that patriotic bend to him too. So it's part of that. Like, that's a genre you associate with America.
Yeah, no, that's
Oh,
that's a really good point. That you want to go real Western. I mean, like,
Yeah,
Western world to the point where you're using Western music. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got like a blues element to it, and that he's talking about his problems.
Yeah, and shockingly, this actually as few and far between as the songs are, it usually follows what I've always thought of as the main rule of a good musical, which is the music shouldn't be like bad action in an action movie where it just stops everything to have a song.
No, you should be telling your story.
You need to be telling your story through it. It's got to serve the story in some way, and not just we sing about a theme for a couple of minutes, but we actually are kind of pushing narrative along a little bit. This does that, actually. Does a pretty good job of that.
No, he's giving his worldview right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's relatable.
Mm-hmm.
It's also really sad to me how still profound some of the ideas in this movie are, and that sounds weird. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking about Power Rangers or something like Power Rangers with this, where you've got a movie where a guy picks up the number pi and throws it in the middle of a food fight, and I'm talking about how profound the ideas are in this movie. But some of them really are. It's sad to me how much this movie still resonates now. It comes out in 1983, and he's talking about how much the world has changed and how cynical it is, and how people don't have self-respect, and they don't care about their country anymore. And it's just it's kind of sad how in some ways things haven't changed.
Well, I feel like this, in a way, is like RoboCop, and that RoboCop is a B movie that elevates itself out of being a B movie. This is RoboCop if it was still a B movie, like, undeniably, but like just in how it's made. But like it still has ideas and a solid character story.
You hear people complain about this all the time, like, people, I'm your president. That's my favorite line of the movie. And my wife goes around saying that all the time. Stop choking me. I'm your president.
That would have saved JFK if he had just yelled that.
Really?
Oh my God, Austin. It's
Too soon?
It's too soon, Austin. So one of the things that was weird and striking about the theatrical cut is the different take they went with in that. You know what? I just had this thought too, Jason. I think the reason a lot of the takes are so different is because they're trying to go with the least comedic takes, which tend to be because they're trying to sell it as more mainstream and like not a parody of Superman, but another Superman. Like that's how it feels like they're trying to sell it.
Why Christopher Lee's takes aren't different then, because Christopher Lee like does fit into the comedic sense, but if you edit the rest of the film to not be comedic, you maybe wouldn't pick up on it.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
it's probably what it is.
You take a lot of the music out of the soundtrack, and yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, because like, he is like a goofy villain, but if the rest of the film isn't comedic, like he's just a villain.
Yeah, and so they still use, and a lot of it's because it's what they have, but I mean, they still use a lot of comedic beats, but they try to play it more like comedy in an MCU movie, where like you have a serious plot, but then here's the jokes in your serious movie.
And he's got like a very, commanding voice too, so like it's easier to kind of sweep that as not being comedic, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But you cannot take this material and try to sell it as a serious movie that happens to have some comedy in it. It just doesn't work because the premise is inherently too absurd.
No, it reminds me of Big Trouble in Little China when that was being made. Raiders of the Lost Ark came out, and Fox was like, hey, we want that movie. Edit all the jokes out. And they had to make a cut that they said was just awful, so the studio backed off. But it sounds like this is that if they didn't back off. They just released it.
Yeah, and what's really sad if it's true is Philippe Mora suggested that Alan Arkin might have had something to do with that cut.
Oh, okay.
That's unfortunate if that's what happened. But
yeah, that definitely is.
And the really
he backed down on it real quick too. He was like, I don't know for sure if that's true, and like he didn't want to talk about it anymore. It's like it left out of his mouth, and he wished he could pull it back in.
And then Alan
one of my favorite things,
go F yourself.
About this cut, that I think makes this cut superior is just how kind of awkward it is, especially with certain ways people act out lines. It has this quality about it that's just very awkward, but it's also like fun kind of awkward. And it just kind of makes you laugh, and it's a weird kind of comedy that I haven't seen a lot of other things do, but I do really like it.
I wonder if people, who work on, other like superhero comedy stuff or just, genre parody things know this movie and are fans of it. I could see this being one of those things that didn't hit with the audience, but maybe there's creators that really like this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also that question of just how many people here got their hands on the right version.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it wasn't widely available till 2006, I really don't see a lot of people seeing the version we released here and grabbing onto it.
Yeah, it's not like Blade Runner where you have like the worst cut up front, but there's like enough in there for it to have fans.
Oh, I wanted to ask you about
go ahead.
About this specific scene in the theatrical cut. They do it like really far back, and it's a oneer.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
It's so flat. It just ruins all the comedic timing because that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
that's the point of it. But anyway, we're talking about that too much.
Magnet on.
I do think this is one of those movies that requires multiple viewings.
Into the blow.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah, I really do because there's, especially if you're not as initiated in weird, like I keep calling it, kitchen sink type B movies, because it just throws so much random stuff at you. I could see a person latching onto enough of the weirdness that they missed the entirety of the plot, or at least like what the villain plot is, or maybe maybe a person wouldn't latch on as much to Captain Invincible's really decent character arc, I think, because they're so focused on like the bits of nudity and the fact that the man's got a robot arm, and the silly like magnet scenes and being attacked by vacuum cleaners, and just all the crazy stuff this movie does. The first time I saw it, I could not follow the villain plot. I think I understood vaguely racism and white supremacy. I couldn't get any further with that. I didn't get the genocide or euthanasia bit. I didn't know what exactly. I didn't know what was happening with the animals that were getting killed. I just thought it was weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
But I also think the setup and payoff in this movie is really, really good, and I think it's kind of impressive. Like, I think it does maybe a better job of making the power set and the rules such as they are with what Captain Invincible can do and all of that clearer than the villain plot. I think that's the murkiest thing.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, that's probably true. Like, there's probably enough going on here that you're not fully appreciating everything on a first viewing. I think maybe just like misunderstood what you meant and thought you just meant like you probably won't like it on a first viewing. But now I get what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I just mean you, and I also think that this isn't going to be for everybody. This is not meant to be accessible, and that's why the American version it's not possible to force it into a formula, which is what that was trying to do. Now the overall outline of it is actually kind of typical superhero fare once you just look at the brass tacks of beginning, middle, to end, but it doesn't feel like that while you're watching it.
Mm-hmm. I like this little Red Riding Hood henchman that Christopher Lee has. But it just made me laugh because in Howling 2, Christopher Lee has like a little person henchman as well, and that I was like, is that just a thing that this director likes? Because like Christopher Lee should always work with little people.
Maybe so. I don't know. There was a lot of that in the 80s in general too.
Mm-hmm.
There are definitely quite a bit of 80s tropes here that we can talk about, but go ahead.
Something that I actually, maybe I'm just dumb, but something that I didn't catch on on the first few watches, every time we cut back to Mr. Midnight, he has a new pet that is eating the previous pet.
Yes.
I don't know how I didn't catch that until, like, very recently. But I think that's really funny.
No, I didn't get that right away either.
Yeah.
That's how you know he's evil.
Yeah, well, and the clear symbolism there is, he sees himself as at the top of the food chain. And on a human level, he sees himself as part of the master race because he's basically a Nazi. Got a $5 super chat from Darren Dooley. Thanks. He says, have you ever caught references to this movie in other superhero movies? Not a one.
Yeah, nothing that comes to mind immediately.
This does not come up. As far as reference in other superhero things, I occasionally... And Austin, you've talked about this before because of the way that you first learned about this movie, but especially because of Christopher Lee's involvement, sometimes a song from this movie would come up somewhere, like completely out of context, and it is usually the alcohol song at the end, where it's like, look how crazy and clever these lyrics are. But there are a weird number of people that have heard that song that have no idea where it came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like you said, that's how I discovered this, was doing a project on Christopher Lee's career and stumbling across that scene.
I can't believe you never ended up seeking the movie out, and then I had to show it to you.
Yeah, well, because I think the way I found it, it was like, choose your poison, but it didn't say what the movie was. So
Oh,
I was like, I
really?
don't even know what this is connected to. So in that project, because we had to, it was a written part, and then you also had to do a presentation. And in the presentation part, you had to show off 3 scenes to show your actor's range. And that was one of the scenes I picked. And I was like, look, I don't know what this movie is, but I wanted to do something from like his early career, his late career, and his like weird B movie period. So I was like, this is just like a B movie that he's in. I don't know what it is, but the scene's amazing.
So the scene we're watching right now
So I don't
is,
know
I
what's
think,
happening.
one of the most B movie things in this, and I think you can point to actually a number of B movie tropes here.
Just like Ed Wood, it's like here's all the stock footage we had access to.
That's what I was gonna say. It is a B movie trope to have stock footage, and sometimes really recognizable stock footage. Like we just go to the Davy Erstad still, okay, and then his like biting into the side of that counter is very B movie-ish, where you have a close-up on a character's face doing something just really outlandish and creepy and maybe kind of gross. That one's not exactly gross, but it sort of reminds me of the Darkman thing with the finger that gets pulled backwards. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but see, I'm also thinking like, give it 20 years and we'll be doing that for comedy and superhero films, but going way more over the top.
Maybe so.
Like Wolverine or Spider-Man destroying their bathroom. Like it kind of feels also in the same vein as something like that, except done a little bit more believably.
But yeah, Jason, what's supposed to be happening there is just he's having withdrawal syndromes because he's missing his alcohol, and it's making him kind of lose it and sort of hallucinate.
Oh, that happens.
Which
Okay.
isn't really what tends to happen, I don't think, with alcoholics. But I think his weird reaction you can just chalk up to he has a different interaction with alcohol because of his powers. That's the best thing I can come up with, Austin.
Mm-hmm. From now on, whenever somebody pulls out seltzer water, I'm gonna say, "You paid $1.49."
They
for
sure
seltzer?"
saw you coming. I really like his reaction. We must have talked over it to discovering that he's been in Australia the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we just passed that.
And that's another bit that is horrible in the theatrical version.
Oh, it's actually it made me mad. I was like, why did you say it like that?
It's just a really bad take.
It was a really bad take. And then it just kept going.
Takes that were never meant to be seen by man.
But the face he makes there, in this cut, is great because he just goes, Australia.
So Austin, one of the things we complained about in Hancock was we didn't really want an origin for Hancock's powers if it was going to be so convoluted and just take over the story and make it stop being what it was in the first half, which was arguably, potentially really interesting. And if you have to stop everything for for an origin and just like get it all out and tell us what it is real quick, this is the way to do it.
So this is the creepiest guy.
It's just so freaking odd, and then we just move on. It's almost like we know the audience is gonna wonder about that, and the movie's not really about that. So it's like, let's come up with something really outlandish and weird, and then just not talk about it anymore.
Well, I love oh man, there's so many things to mention in that little
Go
flashback.
ahead.
But I love that the aliens are just like Showa era Godzilla aliens, and it's a really funny visual image where after they like impregnate that woman, they're all doing like a post-coital cigarette as they fly away. That's really funny. then also like
That's one of the best gags. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then he can like talk perfectly right when he was born.
Yeah.
It's all beautiful.
That's so
And it took
cartoonish.
3 minutes to do that.
It's so efficient.
Yeah, that's what we needed in MCU Spider-Man.
Well, and I have so many questions. Like, why do the aliens just how are they sort of involved in two people's sexual intercourse like that? Like they seem to be, you know, like kind of having a sexual event themselves with that, and then why are they giving like
With their
some
crimson
kids
powers.
superpowers? Is that like the way they procreate? But then Captain Invincible's not going to look like one of them, so I guess not. It was like, why are they intentionally giving a random human child powers like that? And then the one actual alien-looking one, is that a member of the same species as the henchman that Mr. Midnight has throughout the movie, or is it that henchman? Because you notice that it's the same face, it's the same costume.
Is it? Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
notice that.
Looks
Yeah,
just
the
like
guy in
him.
the back. Like
Oh,
there's one in the back that's like
maybe. I assumed his henchman is like a Dr. Moreau like thing that he made.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And it might be that they're not supposed to be the same thing, and they just hope you won't notice that. But
That might be if he was like
But
in
then
the
why would
back,
they even
might
put
just
that in
be
there? 'Cause
that-
they
why
already
is
have
why is it in there?
the alien.
Because
So
all the other ones look like they have the same face. Apparently, originally they were supposed to all look like Alan Arkin, and then for some reason he changed that.
Oh, that would have been a funny gag. It's just an alien race of Alan Arkin.
Instead, they all look like Alan Rickman.
Captain Invincible.
All
Ray
right.
Father.
So, this song sucks, and that's why it's funny. I love it. It's wonderful.
because he hates it,
Yeah.
and that's the gag.
Well, it's also amazing because it just stops. Like he just cuts her off. We
Yeah,
keep going.
because it gets sick. Well, and I love the way that's set up. Did you notice that Austin, toward the beginning of this, he like eagle-eyes the record player, and like the whole song he's thinking about stopping it. When you get to the end, he finally does. And so if you don't notice that, you're thinking he's just being really internal and introspective and feeling, like she says, discouraged, and she's getting through to him. And then when you get to the end of the song, it says, "No, I want you to stop singing, and so I'll do it. Fine." And somehow I don't think that wrecks his motivation or credibility. Really, it just works
Yeah.
for this scene.
Mhm.
It kind of suggests that she just wouldn't have to work that hard to convince him to try to, pull himself together and believe in himself, I guess.
Mhm. Okay, I'll do it.
One of the only missteps for me, Austin, with this movie, and again, I'm looking at it on its own terms. It is a very odd bird. But speaking of birds, I've never cared for this costume.
It is weird that he has like an animal themed costume and not an animal themed name.
Oh, that's true.
It
Yeah, Captain
Kinda
Invincible
sucks.
is a pretty generic name for what he is.
Ah, the glasses.
and then it's just like 3D glasses.
Which is also kind of a B-movie trope.
Yeah, I mean, for this kind of a thing, like, I don't really care that it's a generic costume. Like, that's part of the joke. I think it's really funny that it has, like, a very pronounced crotch, though. I do think that's really funny.
Oh, the other take that they use for the other cut is really funny because she like falls down when she's like re-grabbing the book.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like that take as well. I like them equally.
In that cut, there's a bunch of stuff that they cut way down and truncate too much, and messes up with the pacing. For whatever reason, in this particular scene, when he's using the amazing computer brain, it takes forever. It just goes on for a million years.
Yeah.
I guess because you have to build out the time that you cut.
Yeah, it's really strange because it feels like they're cutting for time, but then they also pad it.
But it's probably, yeah, it was just like too short. So they're like, okay, we gotta pad this back out.
Darren Dooley, yes, they do explain how he got his powers, and it's
Into
amazing.
the blue.
Yeah, aliens put crimson power into two people banging, and then their baby became Captain Invincible.
And also,
They're basically the Tralfalmadorians from Slaughterhouse-5.
because Austin, we just see the flashback, but it's that traditional framing of he's explaining it to her.
Mm-hmm.
So how would he know that except he remembers everything going all the way back to his birth?
Well, he's got an amazing computer brain.
Well, sure,
It
but it's
collects
not like
all
he,
the
yeah, but he can't read a book about it.
Yeah, but
Broadway, Sydney, Australia.
Another complaint I have is that we don't have a little bit more voiceover, because the announcer is so funny.
He is amazing.
And I wouldn't want it to, like, I wouldn't want the movie to overdo it, but I could use 3 or 4 more.
Oh,
of those.
I think it's fine. I mean, he uses it for almost every transition.
Well, you could also argue that it's like the music, where it's kind of funny that you keep forgetting about it, and then when it comes back, it's like, oh, that's right, there's an announcer.
and it's like, but it also, like, the fact that it is so sparse, it makes you think, like, why is there even an announcer just, like, in these random parts of the movie?
Yeah, because we don't need him to hold our hand. But then he just shows up and does that.
Yeah, I mean, it's making fun of 60s Batman, probably.
Yeah, it is. Which becomes a parody of a parody.
Yeah.
But there's
yeah,
a lot
I don't necessarily need more of it, but
precedent for that now.
there's maybe another version where it's like a Arrested Development narrator.
Well, I'm just saying that because there's some of my favorite lines are the narrator.
Yeah.
Mm.
Remember this face?
Remember this phase?
Oh, do you see the tubes going out of that skeleton's eyes? That's our first reference to this movie. Is Harry Potter stole that for the Death Eater thing, the skull in the sky.
No.
Yeah, we do Indiana Jones here for kind of no good reason, and there's not really another scene that stops everything and directly that I know of that directly parodies a non-superhero thing.
I mean, Christopher Lee is kind of a mix of different things. Like, it's very superhero, but like, there's also like some Bond villain to it and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
No, that's true, but it just is weird that this scene is directly referencing
it's directly.
This sucks.
an Indiana Jones movie. There's not really another thing that does that. But I'll also say, and I meant to talk about this earlier, that there is a lot of Australian stuff all over this movie that's over my head because I'm not in Australia and I don't know anything about their entertainment. So apparently, like if you listen to Philip Morris commentary, like nearly every single actor that shows up on screen with an Australian accent, he brings up and is talking about and is like a who's who of famous people over there. So this movie would have had massive credibility there in a way it didn't here, and wouldn't have even really been looked at like as a B movie, Austin.
Interesting.
Because they're all just famous cameos. My favorite line from his commentary is he's being that whole commentary is basically an interview. Actually, there's a historian that knows this movie like the back of his hand, and it's very surreal listening to a guy that knows this movie that well. And he's interviewing Philippe Mora, and he says at the time this movie was made, because Philippe Mora says we had like no money working on this movie, and the interviewer says, but at the time it was the most expensive movie ever made in Australia, and Philippe Mora comes back with, like I said, we had no money. This movie was made on a $5 million budget.
I'm surprised this is more expensive than like Mad Max or Road Warrior.
Yeah. Well, in the wiki even claims it's 7 in Australian. So 5 million here. Apparently.
I guess Mad Max doesn't surprise me, but Road Warrior I would have thought would be more expensive than this.
Well, they had to pay for all the vacuums.
Oh, true. Well, especially because they broke them.
I love.
Well, they had to
You
pay
broke
for all
it,
the
you buy
booze
it.
at the end too. That thing is elaborate.
Oh, that's true.
What?
Oh, I really like when she's like shooting at the vacuums and she accidentally shoots at a poster for a vacuum. That's funny.
Does this have the 89 thing where we're most like Australia's like one block? It's like all around that theater.
It kind of does, yeah. Okay, so there is one aspect of this plot I still to this day don't quite understand, and maybe one of you guys can explain it to me.
Sure.
What exactly is going on with the mole plot, with the traitor thing?
I don't know.
Like, is it that
who it
there,
is?
there really isn't actually a traitor, and he's wrong about that, and the movie just never makes that very clear? Or because I assume it has something to do with Mr. Midnight, like following his movements and being able to somehow frame him. Like Midnight's obviously behind that, but I don't really get the traitor thing. Like,
Yeah.
we never have a specific traitor that's revealed, but there, like, he ends up going on the run, and there's a manhunt for Captain Invincible, and all these cops are after him. Austin, did you figure this out?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, you kind of see him, in some like official spots, throughout that backstory at the beginning. Is it maybe just, Christopher Lee has a hand in like all this stuff, and like he's got like a global reach? Is that maybe just it? Like, it's not necessarily that he has a specific person.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can figure. But they make such a big deal out of it. It feels like it should be more concrete than that. And especially because that happens not too long after Mr. Midnight even realizes it's Captain Invincible he's dealing with. So, I mean, I guess he could have planted somebody in the Australian police before he even realized he was dealing with Captain Invincible, but...
So,
When
why
they
does-
saw that there's somebody there that they've dealt with that was in that same area, I guess. I think that was the last time that we saw. Like, that was that scene with the like midget henchman that we saw, the Red Hood. Maybe like that's what it is. Because he's like, oh, there's this guy here that we got to deal with.
And yes, everybody, I'm talking about this on a legitimate story level because it is thoughtful enough in putting its plot together that I can actually ask these kinds of questions.
the scene has one of my favorite
No,
lines
Phil
from
Moore
this
knows
movie.
how to make a movie.
Yeah, and the script is as tight as it can be for the insanity that this is. It just makes me very... Are you going to say your favorite line is dash?
Yes, well, and also open wider, you silly boy.
Oh no,
Yeah, one of my favorite moments in
that's
this...
a hard one to fit into regular conversation.
It is, but a challenge accepted. Austin, yeah, one of the best moments in this movie is just the way he theatrically says dash when he's
Dash.
when he's talking
Well,
about
he's got
the
his
Swiss
little
bank
puppet
account.
vulture that's really interested in it. That's definitely a real bird.
Going back to, well, yes, obviously. Going back to my complaint about the costume, Austin. The issue really for me is just the color scheme. Like
The silver and red.
yeah, because he makes a big deal out of red, white, and blue, and it isn't. It's silver and orange. Like, that cape is not red; it's orange.
That
Yeah,
means
that's a
that
good
Christopher
point.
Lee is in 2 films starring about American superheroes that can't even get the colors right.
That's my real issue with it.
so-
And I do think the bird talents are really odd.
Well, he's got a helmet that he never wears too.
Yeah.
That's right.
So going back to when they're flying. She says, "May I make another suggestion?" And then it just cuts.
Yeah. Well, I think the joke is just she's trying to get him to fly higher,
Okay.
and so she's gonna say something else, but it's not important.
Must fly higher. Must fly higher.
Austin, what's the best song in the movie?
For me, it'll probably always be the Christopher Lee song.
Okay, but what's the second best song?
That one's hard because I do like pretty much all the music in the movie. Like, there isn't really a song I don't like.
My favorite song is this.
Even her sappy ballad?
Oh no, that song's hilarious.
This is my favorite song in this movie.
I think this is legitimately really well crafted.
Mm-hmm.
Like the intercutting between the scenes.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would say this is the most like full-on blatant Broadway pastiche. Wouldn't you say, Austin?
Mm-hmm.
Like everything falls into a category, and this is a musical, so you have to have that Broadway number. I think this is the big Broadway number.
Mm-hmm. Well, even just how that train was shot, like that's shot like it's suddenly a stage play.
That's true. Apparently,
And then Christopher Lee is in Freddy's boiler room, but the one specifically from Freddy versus Jason with the crazy lights.
apparently none of the actors or none of the dancers in this movie were actually dancers.
I mean, I can kind of see that.
How obvious is it, Jason?
It's actually not that obvious.
Yeah, it's not like obvious, but like
It's not
nothing
obvious,
they're doing
obvious.
super like impressive. So I can also see it.
I mean, the actual dance isn't super like.
Yeah, it's not something I would have assumed, but like when you say that, that
Like,
makes
now I
sense.
can see it. These people
Yeah.
don't feel super confident in their moves.
I mean, look at
And I
Chris
mean,
Lee, he's
here
not-
everyone's doing a different thing.
he's got a bit of a Alice Cooper thing going on in this song with his little whip.
The gag where everybody's reading a newspaper with his face on the front's really funny.
Mm-hmm.
The front headline.
Also, I love all the close-up stuff with Alan Arkin here. Wait, when did he take his coat off?
Between shots, I had the exact same thought like a minute ago.
And also, how did that fit under the coat? With like
I mean,
the
that's just Ninja Turtle logic.
I think at this point, this probably is my second favorite song. And part of that is just because of cinematography and facial expressions. Because some of the best Christopher Lee stuff is here, but also Alan Arkin's Evil Midnight right at the end, his last one,
Yeah.
always stuck with me.
and also
that's
cruise
great.
around.
When he does that teeth grit thing, he's like evil. That's the best thing he does in the whole movie, I think.
And also, I'm going to take a big
I'm
bite.
going to take a big bite. It's so good.
Here it comes.
That's my favorite thing Alan Arkin does in the whole movie. It's so good.
I'm going to take a big bite.
I'm going to take a big
And
bite.
they're selling it so hard. No, he's not Dracula.
I mean, he was.
Not this time.
Not this time. He's Van Helsing and Howling too.
Oh, and the snap at the end is amazing too. And the line after the
payoff at the end is so good. Well,
If
what are you
he's
gonna
that
do about
bad,
it?
what are you gonna do about it,
Yeah.
Captain? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of numbers that feel like you're waiting through an entire song so that you can get this tiny payoff, and it's really great.
Yeah.
Like the
I'll
thing,
do it.
like the thing in her apartment.
Yeah.
Fine, I'll do it.
Except that song is just beautiful all the way through.
I do love all the like camera work in that, where they go like above the apartment. And,
Yeah,
like,
it's
through the
cool.
windows and stuff. I think that's actually really, really cool.
Mhm.
Well, what I love about that song as a parody is a lot of musicals have that one really weak ballad that's sung by the main female lead.
Yes, and it's
Yeah.
making fun of that.
And this movie is going, we're going to intentionally give her
Everyone-
that song, and we're going to make her the only person that's really into it and thinks that it's just a banger of a number.
They all have that Cheer Up Charlie.
Yeah, exactly. And now we've got the Can You Read My Mind with her sitting on his back and his swimming. And
Yeah, and the fact that he's swimming.
it's so funny.
Like it is.
And this is like a crappy, like, I don't know, like lounge ballad or something.
And he's actually not a bad singer.
No, he's intentionally doing something very silly here.
But, like,
Alan
he-
Arkin can sing.
But he actually can sing this. Like this actually sounds good.
Yeah. Now he's putting on a voice, and it's kind of silly, but
It's
you're
a bit
right.
of
Like,
an Elvis
Like it's silly,
thing.
but
it is
it actually
technically really well sung. You're right.
He's doing a bit of an Elvis-y thing, like an Elvis ballad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And this is a cool transition to get us to the Statue of Liberty.
Mhm.
And now we're in New York. It's so weird that this Australian movie is so, like, American patriotic. Like, it's such
Is
a...
Philip Moore
He's Australian.
Okay, he is. Okay, I wasn't sure. That makes sense because I learned today he also made the Howling 3, which is called the Marsupials.
You gotta love the bad front projection, projection, in the bit that we just saw where the camera's just jumping
yeah,
everywhere.
the camera is so bad.
And it kind of looks intentional.
Yes,
to me.
yes, this is the best one. This
Here goes. Midnight plays with a scale model of his monstrous plan. So, my and Jason's minds were blown. Sorry, I keep bringing this up.
I like his little boat, the little henchman guy.
Yeah,
It's really funny. But we saw this for the first time today, and I can't stop thinking about it. Our minds were blown because there are a few things that are added back into the movie that were cut from this in that bad American theatrical version. And one of them is, it's later than this. It's toward the end. But that red computer with all the buttons that we just saw, Austin, apparently
talks.
it was supposed to have a voice. It was supposed to have like an artificial intelligence and talk.
Oh, weird.
And it's like coordinating submarines that are firing on all of the on all the townships that they create to get rid of all the other races.
Mm-hmm.
So it was supposed to be like a build up to that, where at the end the computer would say, "Okay, Mr. Midnight, we're ready to kill all of the lesser races now." And I'm surprised they cut that.
Yeah. Also, you were saying with the Indiana Jones parody thing,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
might be another spot where it's parodying something. I think this is making fun of the like super speed bit in Clockwork Orange.
You're right.
Not super speed, but when they speed up.
You're right, it is, and he talks about that in the commentary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I forgot about that. So you're right. That's not the only place where
On
it does
the
it.
Ride of the Valkyries.
Well, now I'm fine with it.
What's better because it's two women like doing it with a little lizard guy.
I forget who it was, but there was an actor that Philip Moore talks about originally almost got the role before Alan Arkin and passed on it because he couldn't get a straight answer to why am I being attacked by vacuum cleaners? And then apparently like that was the deal breaker, and then apparently when they got to that scene, Alan Arkin stopped everything and looked at Philippe Mora and said, "Why am I being attacked by vacuum cleaners?"
And he said, "Shut up."
That's exactly what he said. He was like, "It's a pastiche. It's a parody thing, and also we've got 40 puppeteers already with these vacuum cleaners. We're freaking doing the scene."
Seek and pinpoint.
I like
His
how
juice head.
I like how all of the staff have like each of them has their own little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there's the concur guy.
Well, and that's funny because that's supposed to be the Prime Minister of Australia.
Yeah.
And so there's some really fun satire about ineffective government, and with the president, like, he's supposed to be more endearing than the rest of them, at least until the movie decides that he's not gonna. By the way, when I was a kid, I always thought it was sad that you can't go in the head. Like, I never went to New York, but I always heard that like, you can't go in the observation platform. I was like, oh, that would be the reason to go.
Well, I'm just super sad. I've been to New York twice, and I've never gone to the Statue of Liberty, which is like the one thing I wanted to do both times.
Oh, that sucks.
I know.
and this ends up being and before a lot of them, yet another movie where we've got a superhero dealing with the Statue of Liberty. We don't have a big battle at it, but we use it as his Batcave, and I think that's so clever.
No, it's wonderful. It's what, in 3? I guess 4 if you count the one in Batman Forever.
It's hard to break
The
them all
first
down.
X-Men, No Way Home, this. Those are the ones that come to mind.
Yeah, there's another one. I can't remember what it is.
That does what now?
It has a fight in the Statue of Liberty, or deals with the Statue of Liberty
It's like
in a
some
major
big
way.
Statue of Liberty thing.
But yeah, I was kind of rolling my eyes when No Way Home did it. I was like, we just got to add to the list.
See, I roll my eyes because they gave the Statue of Liberty the Captain America shield. Like, come on now.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Before that, I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I can't believe it took this long to do the Statue of Liberty in a Spider-Man thing. The best, though, is the movie game for Spider-Man 2. I don't know if you remember, but in the first Mysterio level, when he's like an alien, and he's got like these little aliens invading, he projects himself over the Statue of Liberty, so it's like a giant Mysterio standing there like that.
That's great.
It's amazing.
I think it's also cool that he's got these big clocks for all the time zones.
Yeah.
This is a great set.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got all these cobwebs because that has been used in all this time. Like, there really is, honest to God, like, thought and care.
And it's got all
that.
those, and it's got a bunch of clocks because there's a big time thing in the scene.
Oh, that's a good point too. And he's got Cerebro.
Yes.
Wait, Captain Invincible. These are all the clocks for the different time zone. That means I'm late for school.
But what I was going to say a minute ago is a minor gripe I've always had is I don't know if I totally buy the way the president sort of turns on him, or just like gets finicky in his friendship, because there is some satire there with the American government that is looking for a quick fix for everything, but he's also, at least as an individual, this like idealistic guy that like got into that position in the first place because he believed in all the American ideals, and he's really optimistic because of and altruistic because of Captain Invincible, and like maybe he's bogged down some by the bureaucracy and all of that, but you don't really get much of a hint of any of that until the phone call. And I I always thought the phone call was really awkward.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it's like, I think he's supposed to be, like a good guy that, like you said, is optimistic and whatnot. But, he's made his way into the presidency, and now he has, like, 18 people on his shoulder being like, like, maybe you should question those, like, altruistic things. And I do think you get, like, a little bit of a sense of it. Not as much as, like, you probably needed a little bit more.
You need more of a
but I
through
do think
with
there
it.
is a little bit of doubt in him when they're in that last scene saying that Captain Invincible's wrong and whatnot, and he's got like a little bit more of a like, I don't think he is, but it's not like full confidence.
Yeah, and the reason I feel like there's kind of a light switch is because from then on, now he's that guy. Because you get that scene at the end when they're at the press conference and taking pictures, and he says, "Let's do lunchtime sometime." And like, yeah, sure. Like you're really gonna follow up with that, almost as if now the president is like gonna throw him away like everybody else, where he's just using him, and I just didn't get the sense that that's all it was for him up until that point.
Mhm.
And all you needed was more pressure from the staff throughout the movie, I think, like specifically on the president. I think the president gets lost too much before that is really the problem.
Mhm.
I would not be surprised if there wasn't an earlier draft of the script that has more interaction, specifically with them going, like the he's a juice headline comes way too late, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I think the movie is expecting you to get it because it's like, kind of like what we were saying, like you have all these people doubting him, but then also, I think we're supposed to think that Captain Invincible sounds crazy here when he calls him, and he's like, it's midnight, he's got it. But it doesn't really play that well.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So this phone call is actually hilarious to me, because of just how random some of the interactions are, because they don't line up in some points, and this is very fun to me where he just starts going, ha.
Yeah, my favorite bit is when it's like, aha. Almost as if Alan Arkin, the actor, didn't know what the lines were on the other side.
Yeah.
It is called The Deli.
That was a George Lucas transition right there. The little...
See?
Oh, that actually is
it's
there.
in this cut. Yeah, I didn't know what you were talking about.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah,
it's from a different angle and it's a different take in the other cut, but
Okay.
it is here.
Yeah, I didn't actually.
This bit has one of my favorite lines when he
I
knocks
love
out the
hello.
henchman and he's like, he's not even Jewish.
Yeah. I was shocked they left that in the theatrical version.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I guess because it's like an action movie one-liner. Like, it's the type of thing that you would keep.
Yeah, it's just weird the things they censor and the things they don't, because some of it is to make it more serious and some of it is to full on censor it. Like they take out all of the nudity.
Okay. But I mean, just saying like he's not even Jewish, I don't think that's that.
Yeah, but they take out other stuff that feels like it's for censorship. That's the same degree of like not a big deal.
Oh, okay.
So it just feels very arbitrary.
Mm-hmm. Because that feels like something like James Bond would say.
Yeah, but I figured because of the reason he's saying that they would cut it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a funny gag.
But Dad,
And
why
that's
are
what
you
and
putting mayonnaise on
that's one of
corned beef
Mora's
sandwich?
favorite gags. He talks about that. That's one of my favorite line readings.
Why are you
What?
putting mayonnaise on a corned beef sandwich?
So I'm notoriously not a fan of food fights,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Yeah.
this is probably my least favorite scene.
I remember when you showed this to me, you were like, "Yeah, I don't like this scene. I can't handle it." So, I like just curious. Like, I'm not judging or anything. Like, what is the issue for you with that?
Is it they're making a mess?
I have a real weak stomach.
Okay.
And like gross food on people's faces and all over their bodies and stuff, just kind of bothers me.
Okay. Oh no, I'm just curious.
So in a thing
I
like
said,
this
I'm
that I've
not-
seen a bunch of times, I'm immune to it now. But like, do you remember the scene? And I got made fun of for this because we did the commentary and I had a gag reflex. Did you remember the scene at the beginning of Home Alone with the pizza and the kid that like goes off camera and is like throwing up pizza? I can't watch that scene without having a gag reflex.
Man, I just watched the first two Home Alones like mid-December, and I don't remember that offhand.
Yeah. That happens there.
Yeah.
that happened.
I vaguely remember that because after I watched the movie, I listened to your commentary. But
I've also just always seen food fights as like a really cheap form of comedy.
mhm.
Like I don't think there's anything inherently funny about it. And so
Yeah, I'm
this
like
movie gets
indifferent to it. Like it's not something I find especially funny, but it's whatever.
I think this movie gets extra points for one, having some having some gunfight in there as well.
Although,
Yes.
yeah,
With the
her
fish
shooting
gun.
the gun,
And then also
it's a little funny.
the symbol for pi.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and I love that it does. I could complain that it breaks internal logic a little bit just because like where did it come from? And this movie isn't exactly Naked Gun. Like you don't have characters just pulling random things out, but it's clever enough. I guess I don't care.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel like I don't know. That's not too far off from some of the other stuff in this movie. No, I feel like it's worth it for just two jokes. It's that, and like I said, I really like that bit where there's like cake completely covering her eyes, and she's just standing there shooting, even though she can't see.
It
That's
also
pretty
gets
funny.
a bit of a pass for me because it's handled in a pretty clever way. Like I said, usually food fights are we can't think of anything like more funny or interesting or clever to do, but this movie has a lot of really clever stuff. And also I love the gag of he comes out completely unscathed.
I was just about
He's
to mention
not
that too.
Touched by any food at all, and
Yeah.
he's Captain Invincible, and I love
Yeah.
that. I think that's really
No,
funny.
that reminds me of like Ghostbusters, like at the end after
Yes.
they kill Stay Puft and they walk out and they're all like drenched except for Bill Murray who has a little bit in his hair.
I love how that Jewish line leads into the song.
Yes.
I think that's hilarious.
And that song's great.
That song is great. I didn't like it the first time I watched the movie, but it grew on me.
Yeah, well, and I like how it thematically interacts with the country song at the beginning. It feels like a follow-up to that, but it's in a totally different genre.
But it's more of a jazz lounge kind of thing.
Yeah, and it sounds like something that would have been written at the time that he's from. I meant to make this point earlier too, Austin. I said he's kind of Captain America and Iron Man at the same time. He's like if Captain America was had the same sort of arc where he becomes washed out and disillusioned, and then he becomes like alcoholic like Iron Man, and it also feels like if I could almost argue that it's like if Superman was invented by Marvel.
Or if like Superman 3 was good.
Sure. But like I feel like it's a very Marvel-esque take on a Superman-like character.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Because he's like a real flawed person. There's a lot of pathos in it. The world doesn't coalesce to his will because he's a superhero. But and there's some of this in Marvel where you have the golden age versus the more sober and cynical at the point Marvel started Silver Age. But like they were already kind of doing that. And especially with Captain America, where it's like he comes out of the ice, and back then it's only 20 years, but he comes out of the ice and it's not the world he knew.
This is the most Mad Max thing in this movie is all the crazy Australians that live down here that chase him around.
Yeah. It also just feels consummate B-movie. And you got all these like really weird, again, kind of cartoonish characters, like this Baxter Stockman guy.
Well, now he's dead.
That's a gag I always like because it's so like absurd and unbelievable, Austin, where he sticks a syringe into a computer and explodes.
That's wonderful.
There may be some slight Captain America logic in my movie here and there. I'm not
Captain
Invincible logic in my movie here and there. I'm not gonna lie.
I love this Butler guy.
Yeah, because he goes. Pow.
Yeah, and that's a thing that's over my head. Philippe Mora talks about where that comes from, and I cannot remember what it's a reference to. But there's like it's a reference to I think a real life person.
Oh, okay. See, for me, it's just, and like I've seen it in quite a few comedies. I just always like the gag when there's somebody that has like a very weird way of talking.
Yeah.
That is like completely unintelligible.
But he talked about an actual French character.
Oh, okay. I don't know, that's just how all French people speak.
I like how he says slow it down and it's still impossible to understand.
Yeah.
Austin, do you like the Peach Pit? Is that going too far?
The Peach Pit.
Yeah. You don't remember the Peach Pit?
Not offhand.
So you'll see it here in a minute. So this line makes no sense.
Oh,
and
that line
always
makes no
bothers me.
sense.
When he says, "I didn't think you'd make it into this century," I'm like, everything you guys have done has been in the same century. What does that line mean?
I mean, he's evil. He just said it because it sounds cool.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. So you got all these pits. He's gonna fall in the snake pit, and then he falls into, I think, an alligator pit, and then a giant peach pit drops from the ceiling.
And then he goes, "Oh man, that was the pits."
And then he goes, "That was the pits."
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I might have missed that when I rewatched it today. That is good.
I've seen this movie too many times now, because my wife makes me watch it constantly. This is probably now the third movie I've seen the most times.
I think this is probably the movie that I can say that I'm close to being able to say verbatim. Quote.
I think
Also
Mr.
just looks like a
Midnight's
giant walnut.
Mr. Midnight's logo looks like it belongs to an insurance company.
It does.
Mr. Midnight's insurance would genuinely be a great idea for a company. And Guy can be the little lizard guy here. He can be like the Geico Gecko.
So you know how we were saying this movie should never be remade or turned into a franchise or anything?
Mm-hmm.
I do think a stage show is a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for that. As long as it doesn't go the way of the Spider-Man one.
Well, you wouldn't need Bono. You already have the songs, you know.
No, I meant more so like people flying off the stage. But,
Oh, sure.
But yes, basically, a rule in life is have less Bono. You can never have too few Bono.
I think Christopher Lee is having entirely too much fun with whatever apparatus is allowing him to move stuff around in his lair.
Mm-hmm.
I love the hand gestures
I love
he makes when he throws stuff. The first time I saw this and he does that with the missile, I was like, what the hell is he doing? And what's that sound of it? It was like,
yeah.
And then you just wait 5 seconds and the missile comes again. And I was like, holy crap!
I just keep thinking every now and then Christopher Lee stops and thinks about how he was an actual spy during the war, and now here he is talking to a spandex wearing Alan Arkin with his little lizard friend.
So this is the one thing that is actually sort of iconic about this movie, like we were talking about earlier, even with people that have never seen this movie or have no idea what it is.
But I wish they would actually watch the movie.
Yeah.
But
that's my big thing. It's
now it's more available, but I hope it comes. I hope the real cut comes to a major streaming service at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh no.
But I do think it makes a lot of sense that this is the one scene that kind of shot out into. I'm not gonna say broad knowledge, but like you said, there are people that know this scene that don't know the rest of the movie.
It works oddly out of context because the song. Just being a bunch of puns with alcoholic beverages is really clever, and you almost don't need to know what else is happening.
Yeah, no, there's a little short here that you can follow just alone, but there's also things that I remember seeing this and being like, why did Christopher Lee turn into a woman?
Right.
The context doesn't explain it.
No, it doesn't.
It's such just a perfect little scene in a vacuum. And I just love this song.
And I know I've been, doing more story analysis on this than probably anybody else would ever think to. But I have been racking my brain, Jayson, trying to decide what to make exactly of Captain Invincible, like Austin just alluded to, hallucinating her face for a second.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure what it's doing with that, except just it's weird, and she's the character that he's been with the whole movie. But I don't know if it's saying
I think it's part of that
anything.
That's supposed to be her.
Yeah, that's supposed to be her.
Okay.
That is that actress. What are you gonna say, Austin?
I think it's just part of that, like, I'm trying to think of the exact word to phrase it, because my mind keeps going to, like, seduction, but, like, getting him to get into these vices, like, that's just another vice.
Oh, that's a good point. And you know what? You're right, because there was a direct connection between his alcoholism and his
Womanizing.
being. Well, I don't even know if I go as far as to call it womanizing, but just his sexual arousal.
I mean, to a degree, there is that part in the Statue of Liberty where he was like, the president used to send a girl, and like, and that's like kind of a sexual moment that he.
No, it's
has.
not. No, he's not. He's
No?
talking about a cleaning lady.
Oh, okay. So maybe I just like.
He said, "Pardon the mess."
Oh, okay. I must have
used to
misheard
send a
that
girl
first
in.
line.
And in the
Okay.
and in the 40s, it would have usually been a woman that did that job.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
I actually don't see him as at all a womanizer. He's got the sensibilities of his era, of course, which is why he's surprised by the women's lib thing. But Captain America in MCU would also have been that way.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I love when Mr. Big
Sorry, I didn't mean to
goes
like
into
attack you for misreading that or anything. I'm just saying.
No, it's okay. Like,
I don't actually think that's what's happening.
I clearly missed a line. So.
I love when Mr. Midnight goes in that lower octave with Drink.
And I guarantee you that was a Christopher Lee choice, and no one told him to do that.
Oh yeah.
Guarantee it.
I mean, Christopher Lee's great. He made a heavy metal album when he was like 92.
Yeah. Yes, he did. I've heard that. Don Quixote is painful.
But in the same way that her song is painful.
The noises he makes here are hilarious.
When he just starts grunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the payoff for the American Eagle Network thing here is really good.
Yeah.
And again, it tracks really well with this character arc. Like in the context of this, I kind of buy this bringing him back. Like it's silly and it works all at the same time.
This is the no budget version of the you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us moment, right?
So good. Yeah, except that's about community and this is about just one guy getting over his disillusionment.
No, of course. I just mean, like, if this had money, they maybe would have had, like, a group of people, like, show their patriotism, but we don't have the money for that, so.
Okay, so there's something the theatrical cut does here, Jayson, that I wanted to ask what you thought of.
Where he goes
They actually kind of force a joke here, where he gets on the rope, and he just keeps swinging back and forth like he can't find the edge, and so he just keeps going back and forth. And then they reuse, and I'm gonna swear just do the quote, but they reused that bit earlier from the vacuum scene where he goes shit, and they just put that back in there while he's swinging.
Oh yeah. Oh, and
it's so weird.
Later, this is another weird thing that it does. Later, when they have the I don't know if you noticed this, the Captain Invincible doll, it doesn't go meep meep. It does the kid into the blue.
Does it?
And in the theatrical cut,
there is a bit.
Also, this is a great line.
Yeah, it's great. There is. You really are a genius.
That line, like, winded him.
There is a bit in the theatrical version toward the beginning when she originally comes up to him on the sidewalk with Captain America dolls, or Captain Invincible dolls, pardon me, behind him in a window.
In the window,
I wish they hadn't cut that from this.
I
That
really
was
like
cool.
To all the world!
Where, like, they're... Austin, they have, like, these these Captain Invincible dolls on massive clearance, like they can't get rid of them.
Mhm.
I love how he's finally
And
like,
now
yes, I
he's
finally got my
Atlas.
powers.
He's got the world on his shoulders.
No, because Ridley's dead.
I love how relieved he is when he finally figures out his powers.
I love, like, it's really funny how anticlimactic their confrontation is.
It is, but there's a couple of big things in it that are cool, and then it's just over. All of the pipes that he's standing in front of look a little bit like a Fortress of Solitude. I don't know if that's on purpose.
I'd imagine so. I was thinking that too with that thing with the drinks in it, that little bar.
And
then this is just how is he flying? Like, is he just going around and just going like this? Yeah, the theatrical cut, it says it does the kid into the blue line.
Well, this is just the end of Lester Superman 2.
Yeah.
So Austin, one more thing that the theatrical cut has that I wish this had kept is in the scene we just saw when he's in Mr. Midnight's lair, there on the water, he actually enters that coming down a fireman's pole, and I wish they'd left that in.
That's neat. Yeah.
I don't know why they cut that.
Now, I mean, a lot of that scene I wish they did. I am glad they did leave out, because that scene is really, really long in the theatrical cut for no reason, and there's a really weird like submarine thing, and I have no idea.
See, it does feel like the president earlier is trying to kind of forge that over reliance on the superhero that you have in Batman 66. Like, he reminds me of Commissioner Gordon in that show. Until you get to the end, and I guess he's just using him like everybody else. This speech is great.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it wasn't your fault.
Oh, sorry. This is the speech that I was like, this is way better than.
Yes.
We will go silently into the
No,
night.
so it's not the president.
Yeah, sorry. You're right. It's.
That's a thing I say all the time now, Austin. Most of it wasn't your fault, but some of it was.
Oh, a line that I forgot to mention. This is like way back in the movie, but when she says, well, you rescued me this morning, and he goes, everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like just the right line there, but... Oh, he's actually wearing his stupid helmet thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's worn it every time she's, like, flown on top of him.
That's the only time he wears it.
Yeah, there's like a little handle on his helmet that people can hold on to.
One clever thing... Well, it's cool he's got something built into his costume in case he has to fly people around, I guess. One thing that I think is really kind of clever and thoughtful, and I wish she'd do it more often, is the couple of times that she refers to him as Vince.
Yeah, I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of cool. Philippe Mora calls him that in the commentary. That's how he refers to this character.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, was he referring to him as that?
He calls him Vince.
Okay.
A few times, yeah. It's great.
By the way, this is a great song too. Like, actually, like, unironically.
It does feel very New Yorky.
Yeah, that. It very much fits this movie, I feel like. And then they just go into whap bop pow.
Yeah, which retroactively feels like a song James Gunn would put in a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, it would definitely be a credit song in one of his movies.
There's no way he hasn't seen this.
I would imagine he had to have. What would you do if there was a reference to this in Superman?
That would make me very
Oh,
happy.
wow.
If somebody was just watching it on a TV or something.
Our subtitles were wrong.
What?
It said America
Yeah.
instead of are made of.
Oh, weird. I mean,
No,
the word America does come up a lot in this song.
Yes.
But...
I'm gonna do you one better, Cap. We get President Lex and Superman
Austin,
grabs him.
look. Do you see the alien? It's that mask.
Oh yeah,
It's the same mask.
that
And you'll get a closer look of it, and it's got the same beard and everything.
Yeah.
Why is that
weird.
there?
I don't
Anyway.
know. But I'll do you one better, Cap. There'll be a scene in Superman where we get President Lex, and Superman grabs him, and Lex will scream, "Stop choking me! I'm your president."
Yes.
That line in the theatrical version is so weird. I was going to say that earlier, where he goes, "Stop choking me! I am your president."
Yeah, that's what
With
he
a
says
question
theatrical.
mark?
Yes, that's exactly
Stop
how he says
choking
it.
me! I am your president. Oh, and he's like, Captain Invincible, wake up, Captain Invincible.
Yeah, it's great. In that it's not very good at all. I didn't mean to talk about that too much, but I watched that right before this, and it was very fresh in my mind.
Yeah, I watched that.
Philippe Mora talking about that was pissed in the commentary.
Yeah.
I guess so. If they butchered his movie,
Yeah, they really butchered it.
especially for the man that would go on to make Howling 2. You can't mess with that guy's art.
Yeah, I'm kind of in awe about how seriously I can actually take the story of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously all the ridiculous stuff is really fun to point and laugh at, and like Jayson said, it's very quotable.
Yeah.
But I also find it somewhat moving. Like I kind of buy into that character arc.
It's just a good movie, absolutely. I also just had like a realization, which is in Howling 2, the main character is played by Reb Brown, who is Captain America in the old Captain America movies, where Christopher Lee is the villain in the second one.
Oh, and I forgot.
So it's
Christopher Lee
also
was
a
in that.
reunion.
Yeah, you always remind me of that, and then I get surprised again every time because I've never seen those.
I'm really excited for when we do the second one. The first one will be really boring.
Those are two TV movies, Jayson, that came out in the late 70s, early 80s, I think, right, Austin?
It's late 70s. I want to say it's like 79.
And I think they came out a year apart.
Yes, and the box art on the VHS is the exact same for both of them.
That's right.
They didn't even change it.
But that's okay, because once it came to DVD, they just put them both on one disc, so then it didn't matter.
And Captain America never throws his shield in the first one. But he throws meat at people in a scene.
I wonder how long they are, because that might be a thing that would just make more sense to do as a double feature.
That's kind of the way I assume too. But I actually can't remember. Let's see, because I looked it up earlier.
Austin's just really hoping we do that soon. We probably need to put a little bit of distance between First Avenger and that, I would think.
So the first one is 97 minutes and the second is 88.
Yeah, that's a little long.
It is a little long, especially because the first one is really boring.
We may not do it that way. We'll just fall asleep.
Mm-hmm. That can be one where we can just jump to the sequel, probably.
Austin, is there anything about this movie that you think should have been improved on? Like what would, if we were doing a sign flip, what would you say is your worst thing with this movie? Or do you see it as, I mean, I always hesitate to say review proof, but is it a thing that's just so of a piece you kind of don't want to pull any threads at it?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say review proof, but like, I don't know, it is kind of a perfect movie. Again, in any other filmmaker's filmography, it would be their greatest film, and it's very upsetting that it can't be. But I mean, it is wonderful.
I can never tell how ironic you're being.
No, genuinely. Both, like, I love this movie and Howling 2. I love even more. They're both like genuinely great movies.
Yeah, and in this particular case, I actually agree with you, because very often movies like this, you talk about on a level like I would with like Batman Begins or something, and I don't understand it. But I have a lot of appreciation and reverence for this. My wife has also won me over on it real hard, which is so weird because when I first saw it, I hesitated even showing it to her. Like I didn't know if she'd care for it, and I finally did, and she got mad at me that I didn't show it to her earlier. Like, legitimately, she was annoyed. She was like, why?
Well, she doesn't seem like the B movie kind of person.
No. And she was like, obviously, this is the best thing ever.
And it has a lot of, like, adult jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like anyone could
just,
enjoy this movie, though.
crack the code.
We have not found anyone that doesn't like it yet that we've shown it to.
Yeah.
You know, I think the worst we've had is, like, mystified but still laughing. You know, most people really like it. And, like, I've shown it to DJ, and he really liked it. And I've shown it to Connor now, and he really liked it.
Connor loved it.
Okay, so we're unfortunately not going to have tweet length reviews tonight. I forgot to put out the memo for that, but also I doubt that very many of our patrons would have seen this and had anything to say. So probably not the biggest deal. If anybody that's a Patreon producer really wanted to weigh in on this, feel free to leave one and I'll tack it on the next stream. I feel bad that I forgot about that. But anyway, we'll go ahead and do our ratings right now and then get into my and Austin's rankings for Letterboxd. Thanks for sticking with us. If you're still watching live, I know we've just got a small crowd tonight because it's Captain Invincible. Nobody cares, even though I've done my best to get the word out, Austin. But I'm just one man.
Exactly. What more can you do? You got to become an idea.
One thing I think we should do at some point, Jayson, is I think we should go in and improve the Wikipedia page for this movie.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we can try. Yeah.
Why do you say that? Is it just hard to get updates to actually get approved?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've never actually tried to update an actual Wikipedia page just because those mods suck.
Oh, that sucks. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I got banned from modding a fan wiki.
Wikipedia is even worse than fandom.
I hope somebody at some point
try, though.
is actually allowed to, because the plot synopsis is incomplete, and we have a lot more information now with this release, and nothing has been updated since this came out, and so there's a lot more you could put in for background with production and release, and like most movie pages have information about how the movie was received contemporarily, and you can go back and find those reviews. Like we could write something about that. Jareth, where is this movie available to stream? Right now, nowhere really. The good version, Philippe Mora's director's cut, which is the way you gotta watch it, is really only available on the Severn Blu-ray right now. It used to be on YouTube, but like I said earlier, I'm sure that got pulled because this came out.
Yeah, and I jumped through hoops trying to find this movie.
Yeah, he had to go to the dark depths of despair.
Yeah, I found this in like a Russian chat room. It's really really weird.
And he's not going to give you the link to that, okay? He's not going to do that.
No, I may be on the FBI watch list as being like a North American traitor.
Yeah, now you're going to get put on trial for premature anti-fascism. Let's go ahead and do our ratings. And
he's the traitor that just we.
He's the guy.
Oh,
he was the traitor in the organization.
I genuinely, for a second, thought you were about to say he's the traitor that we needed, but not the one that was necessary right now.
Dan's Den, I liked it a lot. A perfect B movie superhero send-up. I agree. It's got so much charm. And the big thing that helps is it's got real actors. And I don't think there's a weak link in the cast.
I don't think so.
I also always wondered if, I forget her name, but if the female lead was cast because she's not like a conventional like bimbo knockout, and because Margot Kidder is what we did with Superman. I was kind of wondering about that.
Maybe.
Even
she could also be like an Australian 11.
Kate Fitzpatrick. Oh, that's possible. But there were complaints apparently even in Australia in the reviews that they didn't go for like a super hot bimbo kind of character, which is odd, but
yeah, even the creepy guys in this movie are
knockouts
are not bad.
He means as actors, Austin.
No, it's just
like
perfect timing.
a big boy, that guy.
Oh my god, we didn't even talk about that weird doctor guy.
Yeah.
In the flashback.
Come in. Yeah. What the heck is
that?
Wrong
Is
with
the
that
weirdest
guy?
performance in the whole movie. It's a boy, a big boy. So are you auditioning to be in Doctor Who? Like, what is happening?
Oh man.
Okay, let's go ahead and do the ratings. Jayson, do you remember our scale?
I know there's like superhero and hero and nemesis, but that's the only ones I remember.
Okay,
yeah, it's just those three.
So that's it. You have to pick one of those. The tip top is legend.
Oh, legend.
And then it's superhero.
In leotards.
Yeah. Yes. Then it's superhero. Then it's hero. Then it's supervillain. Then it's nemesis. Those are the 5.
Okay.
And how do you want to rate it? We're gonna let you go first.
Okay. Well, this is maybe my second favorite superhero movie of all time. Right under the
Nemesis.
Batman. So,
I actually really hate this genre, so my second favorite is the bottom of the barrel.
No, I really like this movie. A lot of my favorite.
That's what I said earlier.
We were talking about this
because we were talking about this, and Jayson said his third favorite movie is Nature Diabolic, and I was like,
yeah,
your list of favorite movies kind of suggests you don't like this genre.
No, I like a lot more of the superhero movies that kind of go their own way and aren't as mainstream. And I guess I like a lot more of the like low budget superhero movies.
That's cool.
From other countries. But yeah, I'm gonna give this a legend because there's nothing that I really have against this movie. I think it's kind of a perfect movie. Like, even if like it's silly because like it's a really weird movie and like really it's just really weird and just like the silliest superhero thing, but it's kind of perfect.
Well, I think it falls in the category of blatantly imperfect. Like, it's so unabashed about it that that like a lot of its flaws and imperfections and things make it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't want it too polished.
Yeah. And
it's just a guy making a movie that's not held back at all.
Yeah.
Until it's released in America. Austin, what is your rating, sir?
On the worst scanned VHS tape.
I'm curious to see if he goes all the way to the top.
Yeah, I'll give it a legend as well. I do think this movie is wonderful, and I can't go as high as my second favorite superhero film of all time, but it's not far off. I mean, we're on like 27 on our list of the top 100, and neither of us have hit it yet. So
that's true. I don't even remember where I put it with mine, but we'll get there. We're gonna try to get back to that next week. I guess I'll be the outlier and be the sourpuss and only go to superhero.
Give it a nemesis.
I don't think I can go all the way to legend. I kind of want to. I separate things a little bit with the show, where for personal taste at this point I would maybe go all the way to legend, but when I'm looking at this as on the critical storytelling level, I don't feel I can go quite that high, and I hate to sound contradictory because I'm saying like a lot of the charm of it is again like imperfections and things. But there's a couple story things I talked about that I felt like could be tightened a little bit. I don't feel like I can go all the way to legend.
Hmm. I just think, like, for me,
The villain plot's a
there.
little hard to follow. That's part of the issue.
Yeah.
And then the weird president turn at the end holds it back a tiny bit for me. So I don't know. It's very close to a legend, but I can't quite go
Don't
there.
be a stranger.
Yeah, and the villain thing doesn't bother me because it's not like a generic villain. Like I get a lot of fun out of Christopher Lee in this. I think he does a great job. The president thing, I agree. I feel like it just needs to be explained a little bit better.
Yeah.
But like, I can still kind of see where I think the movie is trying to get me to see it. I just think overall, there are movies that are better made, have way more money than this that I enjoy like far less to actually watch than this.
Yeah.
So like, are they better at telling their story? Like, I mean, probably on like a technical level, but like at the same time, like, I don't know, I get more out of this than I do that.
Yeah, and originality and passion goes a long way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's like, do you want your art to be perfect, or do you want it to, hit you more?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of why I land on Legend.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. I'm not proud of it, but I don't
No,
feel like
everybody
I can go quite
shunned
that
this
high.
man. Everybody writes.
You only
shun
gave
in
it
the
a
chat.
superhero.
Exactly. Everybody writes shun in the chat.
Robert, is this a more accurately titled Return movie than Batman Returns? Yes. Yes,
I
it
feel like
is.
every Return film is a more accurately titled Return film than Batman Returns. But
Yeah, because all that movie did was return to the theater,
Yeah.
and Captain
Well, no,
Invincible
he-
returned to civilization.
Return to. Oh my gosh.
he returned to being Batman the next day, I think. Like, he is still returning, but he didn't go
He's
anywhere.
just returning a lot. It's not like the. I mean, putting returns in your
That should have been
title.
the third one. Batman Returns a lot.
Yeah, Batman Returns
That's way
directed
better
people to
than
their
Batman
seats at the
Forever.
theater.
Batman Returns forever.
Forever. No, I don't want to watch Batman Returns
Putting-
forever.
Putting returns in the title suggests it's the next time he's come back, not just technically if you go home and then you go back to work the next day, you're returning.
Yeah, that's returning. You're returning to work.
Okay, let's go ahead and look at the Letterboxd, and we're gonna see where Austin put his first. Austin, are you cool with your placement after
Yeah,
the
I've
viewing
like
we just
jumped
had, or do you want to change it?
I've jumped like back and forth all day. I feel like I'm good, but like, there is still a part of me that's like, I could see it going either way. But I'm good. I'm not gonna change it.
Sorry, I'm sneezing. So Austin put put this movie at number 6, just under Mystery Men. I'm actually really surprised that you've still got Mystery Men above this.
Yeah, so I'm back and forth between 4 and 6. It's around there. Mystery Men's also a movie that's like really stuck with me. Like, I think about that movie on probably like a weekly basis.
Oh,
I
wow.
really like Mystery Men.
And I haven't had that at all. Like, that was only the second time I'd seen it, and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Not quite in the level that you did, but like, you'd have to really remind me about what happens in that movie right now.
Like, I would maybe give that a better review now than I did back then. Like, I maybe would go higher on my score. I think I gave that movie a superhero.
Okay, how did you like Moonwalker better than First Avenger?
Because it's a way better movie. than
Because
First
Austin's
Avenger.
crazy.
Austin's an insane person.
Captain America did not turn into a jet and then
That
killed
is a
Joe
good
Pesci.
point.
Yeah.
Fair.
If anything, it's worse because he like failed to land a jet. Michael Jackson became the jet.
Austin, I've got. That's great. See, that's all I have is Captain America just turns into a transformer, and then.
Exactly, and then he can kill Joe Pesci, Red Skull, and then save the day.
Oh my
And then
God.
still crash into the Arctic.
Imagine Joe Pesci as Red Skull.
That would be the greatest casting choice of all time.
Cover everything in circles. Everything in circles.
Captain America, you freaking.
So
We're all going different directions for some reason. All of a sudden.
all of a sudden. So anyway, I put Captain Invincible relatively high for me, Austin. I put it right under Spider-Man 2. I put it at the 11th spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was a little surprised to see that I put it higher than you, but at the same time, like that also kind of makes sense too.
I'm trying to be as, relatively objective as I possibly can with this list, focusing on story analysis.
I mean, I am too.
It is a different list than my favorites list.
Well, I'm not doing this, but I do have my top 5 superhero movies, and it's on there. So if you want me to count those down and see where that lands, even though I already told you. But the Batman's number 1, and then Captain Invincible is number 2, and then Danger Diabolik is number 3, and RoboCop's number 4, and number 5 is Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker.
Wow.
Fascinating.
I know you like that movie, but I didn't realize you liked it quite that much.
What
you put
are
that
your
even
top...
even above Phantasm?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's
no,
wild.
it's a way. I think it's a better movie.
Even above.
That's wild.
Sorry, what, Austin?
I just said that's wild.
Even above Under the Red Hood?
Yeah. I've seen it more times.
I think if you watched Under the Red Hood 2 more times, it would change that, because you had such a reaction to that.
I did like that movie a lot. But it also is kind of forgettable.
I mean, your list
in my
could be
opinion.
your list. I'm not telling you what to do.
I kind of forgot.
You had like
a
but when we watched it together, it felt like you had like a spiritual experience with that.
Yeah.
Okay, looking at the movies we've done on Rewind, Jayson, we know your top 3 now, but what would your top 5 be, or even your top 10, just based on what we've done?
Of the ones that you've done?
A
Yeah, like
lot
on
of these
Rewind.
he's never seen though.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But of the ones you have seen,
yeah,
did you
exactly.
Some of my favorites on here, I can do that.
Yeah.
Well,
I thought it would be an interesting experiment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Tim
you
Story
have-
Fantastic Four, number 1.
You did do... No, that movie actually sucks. I did that. I watched that with...
I'm so glad we never have to watch it again.
Oh, man.
Oh, God. I know.
So, yeah, you did do Return of the Joker and Captain Invincible. I love The Suicide Squad. Maybe my favorite James Gunn movie. I like Blade a lot. Blade has one of maybe my favorite opening scene in a movie.
Absolutely.
I liked Mask of Zorro, and I said RoboCop. I think I like X2 over Days of Future Past. And then I'm a big Multiverse of Madness fan. It might be. It's up there as far as MCU movies go, because I'm weird.
Yeah, our audience agrees with you, but Austin and I
weird.
do not. Austin and I are right there with you.
And then I like Daredevil a lot. I don't put The Shadow over Daredevil. I don't know. And then I have not seen Hercules, but I've heard it's good.
The Shadow holds together as a story way better than Daredevil does.
Sure.
Yeah, that is true.
Batman
And I love
Returns
Hercules.
sucks. Superman Doomsday I couldn't even get through.
It's bad.
It's
I
bad.
literally I couldn't get through it. And Spawn is probably number 1.
Have you seen Jumper, though? No, that's the question.
No.
Have you seen Masters of the
No.
Universe?
Yes. That one's probably at the top
With
as well.
Frank Langella, who was also probably going through his B-movie period?
He is the best thing about that movie, and no, he's great. That
He
movie
is.
is actually terrible, but I'd watch it again.
That reminds me, because you guys watched Hancock together and had a really bad experience with it
Yeah,
when we did that as a rewind.
I actually liked it the first time, and
That's
then,
what I was gonna say. Is I actually the other day I was looking, I was looking for a specific message on Discord, and I forget what I searched, but I found um, a post by Cap where he was like, "Oh, I'm showing Jayson Hancock right now, and he loves this movie," and it just made me laugh because it was right after we did that on Rewind, and I remember him being like, "Oh, I showed it to Jayson, and he hated it."
yeah, it's just both movies are bad, really.
10 to 14 is a giant leap.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, absolutely, it is.
Oh, and X-Men Origins Wolverine sucked.
That is correct.
That's not news to anybody.
And Batman Ninja kind of sucked too. That did not.
Austin and I were won over more watching it together and talking about
Yeah,
it.
oddly enough, both he and I we watched it to prepare. Went, this is not very good, and then watched it together, and it clicked. And I don't know how that happened.
I just think the story is really, really lame.
And it is. That is true.
Yeah, it ends up not really being about that at the end of the day. I don't know. The whole thing just boils down to you are my opponent.
And I still have never seen Joker. So.
Oh man.
I'm not in a hurry to show you that.
But
because I don't want to watch it again.
Watch Punisher Warzone over that.
Yeah, that movie's fun. Okay, so we're having to kind of move plates around a little bit for next time. Austin and I, in the not too distant future, are going to finally do Watchmen. We announced that not too long ago. We're not going to do that next because we need some more lead time on it. We want to reread the book and probably review that on the vault before we do that movie. And we've got a requested one we're going to do soon, but that movie is also kind of in the B-movie category. I didn't want to do two of those back to back. So we're mixing stuff up. We're going to let Jayson pick the next one. And he is looking at the list that of movies that count on Letterboxd, which is in the description. And if you ever want to refer to that list to see what movies are eligible for this show, or to see if there's anything that we're missing on that list, you can go check that out and let us know, because sometimes people find things we didn't know about. But anyway, Jayson, have you already made your selection?
I've already made my selection.
Oh, boy. We gave him carte blanche.
So I can pick anything.
We're both a little worried.
It just can't be anything from that you've already done on this and that you, yeah.
It has to be 2 years old.
Yep. Okay. It's not a terrible one. It's not a terrible one. I don't know. I think people are mixed on it.
We expected to be raked over the coals.
No, you expected like Super Dogs or something.
I was expecting like Catwoman.
Super Buddies.
The hell is
whatever the
Super
heck.
Dog? Yeah, Super Buddies. That was my worry. Was it be something like that?
No.
Is it a big one or is it like
Some of the
a
Mask or?
I'll just tell you.
Oh yeah, because we gave him carte blanche. Like,
well, now I want to try to guess. But...
I guess also you can't pick Watchmen because we don't want to do that quite yet. We need some time on that.
No.
He picked the Toxic Avenger.
Oh.
That's the next one. All right, Jayson, what did you pick?
Okay, I picked Constantine.
Oh, okay.
I would have saved that for October, but sure.
Yep.
Cool.
So you just making sure we do all of your mom's favorite movies in a row? Is that?
No, that's not what it is. It's just
her three favorite films in order are Captain Invincible, Constantine, and Toxic Avengers. We know.
Yeah, but she also loves Watchmen. So we're doing a lot of her favorite movies like all together. So I'll have to make sure she's around when I.
That's
watch
another
Constantine.
one that's like, how does she like that movie?
I know. The woman's a quagmire.
But yeah, for some reason, I specifically am in a Halloween mood. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool with me. I've only seen that once, so.
Yeah, and not
Me
too
too.
long ago.
Yeah, and it didn't leave like a huge impression on me, but I've been wanting to rewatch it.
Well, we'll pretend like it's really timely because Keanu Reeves voiced Shadow.
And they're making a second one at some point.
Oh yeah, that's true too. That
Maybe
is
we'll
actually
get more
still
news
supposed to
about
happen.
Maybe we'll get more news about that once we do it.
That's usually what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. All three of you. Appreciate you guys. And we will see you again next week with Constantine.
Yep.
I probably won't be there, but
Well, thanks for picking something.
yeah,
Thanks for joining us. I hope you had fun.
it was a bad choice.
No.
Okay.
No, that's cool with me. Like I said, I was like, oh, it's going to be like Catwoman or something. He's going to put us through the ringer.
I would have been so excited if you'd said Catwoman. I've been wanting you to have to watch that.
You know what? I should have like just looked back here and just pick, like looking through that list is really like you have to scroll. Here is just like
Yeah, that is true.
Folks, if you want to help support the show, you can become a patron at patreon.com/geekvolution. At just the $2 tier, you get access to my new ridiculous experimental series, which is also superhero movie commentaries. But the spin is it's only Batman 89 and 89 times. This week, I'll be watching the film on VHS. So join me Sunday live for that, and everybody on the channel can watch it live if you're there while I'm broadcasting it, but if you want to see the playback, you have to become a patron, and you can also become a Patreon producer at the $10 tier, and sometimes help us pick movies for Rewind. We've got the next couple figured out, but we'll start taking polls again after that, and you get to hang out with us on Discord and some other nice perks there. One of the other things you get is your name read dramatically by me at the end of every show, but this time I'm going to have Jayson help me out with it. Jayson, are you ready?
yeah, let's do it.
We're going to read down all the Patreon producer names. Thanks to all of the patrons and all of you guys just for watching, but we want to especially say thanks to these folks that help pay the bills.
All of them.
Just the $30 tier down to the $10 tier.
Okay.
That's how it works. So we'll go back and forth.
Oh, we'll go back and forth.
We'll go back and forth. Unless you want to do them all. You want to do them all?
I can do them all.
Okay, Jason's.
I've done them
Jason's
all
going...
at some point. I don't.
Have you
remember.
really?
There was one where I did.
I don't even remember that.
But I don't think I did it on Moonwalker. But I'm remembering me doing that.
Well, anyway.
But, anyway.
Okay, Jayson is going to dramatically read these names.
Breezy Hemi, Darren Dooley, Jesse Surtees, Chewbacca's lover, Dr. Hello, Goofster 123, Joe Turner, Joe Gira, Super Billy, Vic Apocalypse, Victor,
We got Super Billy.
Box Stark, Adam March, Damon Begay, Hot Soup, Invisa Pig, Kareem Roberts, Kate Blaze, Matt Bat 68, Matthew Brody, Michael Martin, Wendell Jones, and Wendell Jones.
And that's it. Yeah. All right. Once again, good job, Jayson. That was great. You should know I have occasionally gotten comments from patrons that don't like it when I intentionally mispronounce their names.
Please don't do that again.
But you did a good job. Well done. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan, and as always, Austin the Day Ghost.
Yeah, see you, folks.
And as sometimes, Jayson.
Me. Hey, bye.
Bye, folks.